It has now been 9 months since we decided to become land-based, after finding out that a family member is very sick. We found a farm where we can live and build our dream boat, and have already lived here for 7 months. We also bought a sailboat so that we can go sailing during the building process. We've seen late summer, fall and winter pass by, while we've been preparing the barn and building a mold for the boat.
Ah, nice!
Last week we started working on the stem, which is the front piece of the bow.
This will be the actual bow of the boat.
We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. Most recently, we bought a farm in Sweden where we are going to build our dream boat ourselves from scratch. Welcome aboard and please subscribe for weekly episodes. Johan continues working on the stem and is using an electrical planer to bevel the sides. Then he moves over to a hand planer. The front and back face of the stem was cut with a CNC router. And now the job is to join those two surfaces into a smooth transition. Since the piece is curved in 2 directions and both sides need to have the exact same shape, this job is quite difficult and challenging. The beveling turned out really good, so big thumbs up to Johan's craftsmanship.
So today it's time to start producing the second piece of the stem. This will be the bottom part that will connect to the front piece that I finished yesterday. Yesterday I planed these 4 pieces of oak that will be glued together later on. But before I do that, I will place a cutting file, like a silhouette of the bottom piece, so I can cut that shape on all 4 pieces before I glue them together. That way it will be a bit easier, because once these pieces are glued together, it will be a pretty thick and hefty piece, and also the CNC router can't reach all the way through a thick piece like that. So it's time to glue these 4 pieces together now, and then it will have to cure overnight, and then tomorrow it's time to make the beveling on the sides here in the front and make the connection to the front piece. So this piece is now cured, and it's time to try to get it into the correct shape here in the bow. So we can mount it together with the front piece up here. It is a heavy piece.
There are many steps in shaping the end that will be connected to the front piece. Johan starts by making a rough cut, which took a while to do.
So I've been trying to get it into the correct shape now for maybe an hour or two. I think it's going all right, but it's quite hard to, on one side you have made all these cuts that are digital from the 3D drawing, the whole shape of this thing, and then suddenly you need to, just use your eyes on the surfaces in between. But it's quite satisfying in a way, working like this, combining these two ways to shape an object. First you have these guidelines really that are from the 3D drawing, then I have to do the surfaces in between by hand. But so far it's going okay, I think. But it's quite a lot to remove. I'm using this one because I've been removing quite a lot with the electrical planer, and then I have another planer, if you can call it that looks like this, but somehow I didn't get this one to cooperate very well. I don't think I've been trying to get it a bit sharper, but it's not working the way I wanted to. So I'm sticking to this. It's quite okay, even if the removal rate could be faster with something like this.
The wind is howling. Last night it started snowing. The temperature went down, so now we have about around -4 Celsius. And it's white on the ground. Everyone just thought that spring had arrived. But no, it's like April Fools, which is correct because it's almost April. But I'm just tidying up a little bit out here in the barn. There's been producing a lot of sawdust over the last couple of days, as Johan has been working on the stem. And that work still continues. But we're taking a break today because we're going to try out the rip saw and to rip up some of the cedar planks that we're going to use for the hull. So we'll be ripping up and producing the strips that will go on the hull and try to find efficient and smart way of doing this, because we're going to need about 3 kilometers of cedar strips. So that's a lot. Those 2 oak plants were really beasts. How much does one weigh?
I don't know.
80 kilos? Or?
Yeah, something like that. There were some planks that were around 125 kilos in that. Okay, since this is just a test run, we're thinking we're taking a small piece now, but since every cubic centimeters will count with the cost of cedar nowadays, we're really going to check every piece the best way to rip it up, so we get as much strips as possible from this pile.
And as less waste as possible.
Yeah. At best, I think we can keep the waste down to around 12 to 15% after planing the planks or the strips.
How much does this weigh? Oh! It's so light!
Yes.
It feels like it's hollow inside.
Yeah. It's a huge difference compared to the oak.
It's crazy. This feels like fake wood.
Yeah. This is around 370 kilos per cubic meter. And I think the oak is around 700, maybe even a bit more. So, really big difference.
The Western red cedar has a very strong scent, as we talked about before. It smells really good, but when you work with it, it's not the best to inhale the dust. You can even get allergic to it. It's quite common, yeah. So we want to avoid that, so we have these full masks.
Full face masks, so also nice that you get some eye protection with these.
Yeah. So we're going to put this on. But first, let's talk a little bit about the strips that we're gonna make.
Since we have many different sizes of these planks, I mean, all of them are 100 millimeters thick, but the width varies quite a lot in the pile we have out there. And that means that in order to get the most out of every plank, we need to take measurements on all of them and decide which way is the best to cut each plank. And on this one, we have decided that we'll cut it in the middle and then 3 times in this direction. So in total, we'll get 6 strips out of this one. Pretty wide ones, 70 millimeters wide, and what we can get in thickness. We're aiming for 28 millimeters, so we have gone down a little bit in thickness of the hull from 32 to 28, because we realized that 32 was a bit of an overkill, really. So 28 will be plenty enough, also with the glass fiber and the epoxy and everything on top of that, and also on the inside later on. Yeah, that didn't go very smooth. It was pinching the blade a little bit. We have a new saw blade, a new ripping blade in there, but it could be that the riving knife isn't thick enough, because as you heard, it was pinching the blade and almost stopped the machine at one time there. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe we should try. We could try to make the other cuts as well and see how that goes. if it was just that there was some tension in the wood. As expected, it produces quite a lot of sawdust ripping these planks, and obviously we need to fix that before we start ripping the rest of the timber. The only problem is that this machine has a square opening for the dust extraction, and our hose for the dust extractor is round. So I'm working on making a piece that I will glue onto the machine, but it will need to be a lot thicker than this so we can connect the hose to a square hole. But I haven't figured that out yet, so that's something that we need to get done.
Now I have 6 strips of cedar plank cut up, or how do you say, and then we're going to plane them as well.
To the correct thickness. There was a big crack in one of them, so that one there won't be much that we can use from, maybe half of it. I'm really thinking that we should get a power feeder for the saw to make this whole operation a lot faster, easier and safer.
And what is that, if you explain?
It's like a machine with 3 or 4 rollers that drives the timber through the saw, keeping it to the fence, and also feeds it through the saw, so you don't have to have your fingers anywhere.
At all?
No, I mean you just feed the machine with the plank, and then it will take it through the blade. Mm-hmm. So it goes faster, and yeah, it's
but
a lot.
Was that the machine that cost like $1,000?
Yeah, it's about $1,000. So we'll see if we can find one second hand, or if we can borrow one.
Or rent. Yeah.
Yeah, rent is hard, but maybe we can borrow one. It was nice just trying this out, see if we can how we get the feel for how this cedar is in the saw.
It smells really good.
Yeah, it smells fantastic, but yeah.
It's not the best to
It's not the best thing to inhale, maybe, but
right
it smells
now.
good. Yeah.
Nice to try it out.
Definitely.
Now we know what the tweaks that we have to do.
Yeah, and most of the strips that we're going to produce are going to be a lot smaller than these. But we're thinking that on the flat areas down here, we can use quite a lot of strips in this width. It will save us time and also save us a lot on the timber, less cuts. So that's the plan. We will have variable widths on all the strips for the hull, just to save on the material. Okay, let's clean up here.
Yeah.
It smells like a pencil factory in here.
And it looks like red desert sand.
I can't hear you with that.
It looks like red desert sand.
Yes. This looks really good. There was one of these that had a big crack, like we said before, straight through here, so we can't really use that piece, but maybe we can use some smaller pieces of this. The rest of them were okay. Right now, all of them are around 72 millimeters wide, and I don't think we will plane both sides here. We will only send the rough side here through the planer and leave the edge that had gone through the saw. So that way, I think when they're ready, we can have them down to around 70 millimeters. But we'll leave them for now, because maybe we want to have another dimension on these. We'll wait until we have ripped more planks and see what we will do. So I just started to produce the connection piece that will sit and tie together the front piece of the stem with the part in the bottom. This piece isn't very long, but it will be pretty thick around this, but will be shaped like a V. And I will connect it with glue, of course, epoxy, but also a lot of big dowels, if you call it like that in English. Tenons, maybe you call it. So I made this glue up jig, maybe you can call it that. Like it's going to keep these pieces aligned here on the sides when I'm applying some pressure here on top. Because I really want them to stay aligned here, because the angle here is exactly 99 degrees, which is the angle between the front part of the stem and the bottom part. So in theory, once this is cured tomorrow, it should fit directly at that angle between those pieces. And then the only thing I have to do is to shape this, blend it in between those two pieces, which will be quite a lot of work. So I will wipe these pieces down with some alcohol and mix some epoxy. I will take this into the shed we have over there. It's around 10 degrees in there. Out here it's around freezing, so pretty cold. And it's also pretty late. It's 11:30 in the evening. So I really have to stop working soon. It's time to go to bed. So it's morning again, and the connection piece that I glued up yesterday evening still isn't fully cured, so I can't really start working on that just yet. But since it's pretty messy out here in the barn right now, I'm thinking that I would try to clean up a little bit here, sweep the floors and just tidy up, because lately there's been a lot of sawdust everywhere, so I will try to fix that today. And later on this afternoon, I hope I can start working on that connection piece and mount it on the two other pieces so I can tie everything together. But it might be that I have to wait with that until next week. This stem has taken a lot of time to produce. It's heavy, it's big, and it has many different shapes. It's a real three-dimensional object. So it's been taking a lot more time than I first thought, but that's how it is. With some pieces of the boat goes faster than you think, and then others takes a lot longer. That's just the reality of building a boat for the first time.
I think that Johan is doing a phenomenal job on this boat build. And I know that you guys see that as well. There are so many heartwarming comments. I help out where I can, and I hope to improve my woodworking and boat building skills. Thank you guys for watching, and a big thanks to our patrons for supporting our production. These videos are really made possible thanks to you guys. See you next week.